Welcome back to the Aslan Health Podcast. This is episode 2 of our caffeine series. In the previous episode, we revealed the science of how caffeine perks us up and all the reasons that we love it. Today's episode is called Reset, Breaking the Cycle of Caffeine Dependence. And we're going to get real and not so glamorous about that side of caffeine, the tolerance, dependence, and what happens when your daily coffee habit starts owning you instead of the other way around. So if you've ever thought, man, I need my coffee just to feel normal, or you tried to quit caffeine and you felt terrible, well, this episode is especially for you. Don't start shaking, take a deep breath, and let's do this.
Welcome to the Aslan Health Podcast, where science meets soul. Your host for this program is Dr. Mike Hauman, an experienced physician, a certified functional medicine provider, a certified insight coach practitioner, and a devoted follower of Jesus Christ. If you're tired of feeling stressed out, exhausted, overwhelmed, or stuck in survival mode, you're in the right place. So take a deep breath. Let's be transformed by the renewing of our minds. Here's Dr. Mike.
You know, in 1 Corinthians 6:12, the Apostle Paul wisely stated, "Everything is permissible for me, but not everything is beneficial. Everything is permissible for me, but I will not be mastered by anything." That's a great principle for us all to have in all areas of life, even when it comes to something as common as caffeine. Caffeine is ubiquitous, and it can be beneficial, as we've discussed, but we never want to become so dependent on it that it masters us. If you feel like you can't function without it, it might be time for a reset. So let's talk about how we get hooked on caffeine, and more importantly, how to break that cycle. Think back to when you first started drinking coffee, tea, cola, or energy drinks. Do you remember that zing and the boost that you'd get from just one serving? It felt fantastic. But if you've been a daily caffeine consumer for a while, you might have noticed that your usual dose doesn't pack the same punch anymore. Maybe 1 cup turned into 2, or 2 into 3, or from small to a large, just to get that same level of awareness and boost. What's going on? This is the classic tolerance trap. Tolerance means that over time, your body adapts to the presence of a drug, in this case, caffeine, and that drug's effects become less pronounced. Caffeine tolerance builds because your body's always trying to maintain balance, a concept called homeostasis. Remember how caffeine works. It blocks those adenosine receptors to prevent you from feeling sleepy. In response to that blockade, your brain says, my adenosine signals aren't getting through. I'll fix that, and it upregulates your adenosine receptors. It's as if your brain creates extra parking spots for the adenosine that has nowhere to connect. At the same time, your body becomes more efficient at clearing caffeine metabolically. The result, over time, the same amount of caffeine has less effect because it's now competing with a lot more receptors and being metabolized more quickly. So the morning coffee that once made you feel like a superhero now just brings you to baseline. It simply makes you feel normal. And if you skip it, oh boy, all that adenosine comes rushing in, binding to those extra receptors, and you feel more tired and cruddy than ever. This is why regular caffeine consumers notice the benefits, like mood lift and alertness, well, they wane with time. And if you don't get your fix, the negative effects like sleepiness and headache become worse and more noticeable. This tolerance can develop surprisingly quickly. Some studies suggest that even after just 3 to 5 days of consistent caffeine use, your body begins adjusting. Many of us are unknowingly getting on this treadmill. We drink caffeine regularly, our bodies adjust, we don't get the same kick, we gradually increase the dose and or the frequency, and then chase after that alert feeling. Meanwhile, our adenosine receptors multiply. And now we're drinking coffee not just to get ahead, not to get that feeling, but just to keep up. It becomes less about getting a boost and more about avoiding the slump. Enter another undesirable side effect. Caffeine can interfere with your sleep, which in turn can make you feel more tired the next day, creating a vicious cycle. Caffeine has a half-life of around 4 to 6 hours on average, meaning that it can take that long for just half of it to clear from your system. For some people, it's even longer. So if you have a large cup of coffee, which contains, say, 150 to 200 milligrams of caffeine, and that's at 3 o'clock p.m., there could still be a decent amount of that caffeine in your bloodstream at 10 or 11 o'clock at night. This can reduce the quality of your sleep, especially deep sleep. If you're finding it hard to sleep, or you're waking up not feeling rested, your late-day caffeine may be the culprit. So then what happens? Well, you wake up groggy and you reach for more caffeine to feel human again. And the cycle continues. In essence, poor sleep leads to increased caffeine intake, which in turn leads to poor sleep. It's a self-perpetuating loop. You must protect your nighttime sleep. I recommend avoiding caffeine at least 8 hours before bedtime. If you're very sensitive or you're consuming a very large dose, like some energy drinks or pre-workout supplements that may have 200 to 300 milligrams caffeine, you might need additional time, like 12 to 14 hours, to clear that before bedtime. The key takeaway is that if you never give your body a break from caffeine, you will likely end up in a state of diminishing returns, needing more caffeine and getting fewer benefits. But this situation can be corrected. Your body's sensitivity to caffeine can be reset. How? By hitting the reset button with a break from caffeine. And yes, I know, the very thought of that might strike fear into your coffee-loving heart. It's okay, I'm with you. The first step is understanding what happens when you come off caffeine. So let's prepare for that. If you've ever gone a day without your usual coffee and found yourself in a raging headache, you've already met your enemy, caffeine withdrawal. In fact, caffeine withdrawal is so common that it's recognized in the DSM-5, which is the medical equivalent of an encyclopedia of mental health conditions, which lists caffeine withdrawal as a medical diagnosis. When a habitual caffeine user suddenly stops or sharply reduces their intake, the body and the brain react to the absence of caffeine. Essentially, all those adenosine receptors that we talked about are now unblocked. And adenosine binds to those receptors. In addition, your brain misses the extra dopamine and the adrenaline stimulation. The result is a set of predictable symptoms, common caffeine withdrawal symptoms, and these include headache, classic one, a throbbing headache that can range from mild to debilitating migraine-like from caffeine withdrawal. Next, fatigue and sleepiness. Without caffeine on board, adenosine takes over, which can feel like you slammed on the brakes. You're tired, you're sluggish, even downright lethargic. Brain fog is also common. It might feel like your thinking is slow or fuzzy. Next, low mood or irritability. Don't be surprised if you feel a bit blue or irritable. Some folks get noticeably grumpy, cranky, and down for a day or two. Anxiety can also spike for some, or conversely, some people feel calm, but somber, blah. Mood swings are also common. Next, difficulty concentrating. Your ability to focus might take a hit, especially if you're dealing with that headache and the fatigue. Tasks that are normally easy might feel like you're wading through deep water without your regular caffeine. Finally, flu-like symptoms. This one's kind of interesting. Some people actually feel like they're coming down with an illness. Muscle aches, stiffness, nausea, generally just feeling unwell. They're all part of it. Sounds rough, right? Well, the good news is that withdrawal is temporary, and it's a sign that your body is recalibrating and in a healthy way. The timeline usually goes like this. Symptoms of withdrawal typically start 12 to 24 hours after your last caffeine exposure. That's why if you normally drink coffee every morning, you're likely feeling it by the next morning, 24 hours later. Symptoms tend to peak around 1 to 2 days once you're off caffeine. Day 2 can be the hardest for many people. After that, things will improve. Most caffeine withdrawal symptoms resolve within the first few days, and they return to baseline within the first week. In rare cases, some very sensitive people may take a little bit longer, mild, lingering symptoms for up to 9 days or so. But that is not common. And interestingly, you don't have to be a mega coffee drinker to experience withdrawal. Even as little as 100 milligrams of caffeine per day consumption, which is roughly the amount you find in one good cup of coffee, it can lead to dependency such that you'll notice withdrawal symptoms if you stop. So if you're thinking, oh, I only have 1 cup, I'm not addicted, you might still feel better, and you might still feel a bit of withdrawal if you quit. It may be shorter or milder in comparison to someone who drinks a whole pot of coffee every day. But understanding withdrawal is important because I want you to set realistic expectations if you decide to do a caffeine reset. If you know it's coming, you can face it head on and not be blindsided by it. It's similar to knowing that starting an exercise program will leave you sore for a few days, but then you'll feel stronger. With caffeine withdrawal, the first 2 to 3 days are the hardest, and after that, you'll feel your own natural energy begin to return. Some people report that after they get past the withdrawal and their sleep improves, they actually feel much better than they did when they were on caffeine, with more steady energy throughout the day. All right, so let's say you're ready to hit the reset button on caffeine. How do you approach it in a wise manner? Let's walk through a game plan. If you decided it's time to break this dependent cycle and get your caffeine tolerance back to baseline, good for you. This can be a really healthy move. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're quitting coffee forever. Think of it like giving your body a little vacation so that you can come back to caffeine and its benefits at a better baseline. In medicine, this is called a drug holiday, and it can be quite effective. So, here's some strategies to help you reset successfully. First, plan your caffeine detox period. Choose a start time when it's a practical time for you, when you can feel a bit low energy or off your game. For example, don't start your caffeine reset on a crucial week at work or right before your exams. If possible, begin on a weekend or when you have a few days off so that you can take a nap if needed. Mark your start date and remind yourself of the withdrawal symptoms and that they're temporary. Second, decide in advance if it's best for you to quit cold turkey or to taper down. There are two basic approaches to this: stop at once or gradual taper by slowly reducing your intake over several days. It's similar to entering a swimming pool for the first time. You can either jump right into the cold water all at once or walk down the pool steps slowly and equilibrate as you go. Cold turkey gets you there faster, but you may experience more intense withdrawal symptoms for a period of time. Tapering can make the withdrawal symptoms less intense, of course, but you'll still have some symptoms and they'll be drawn out for a longer stretch. For example, if you normally drink 3 cups of coffee a day, a taper might be 2 cups a day for 2 days and then 1 cup for 2 days and then 0. Some prefer to mix their coffee with decaf to taper like a half calf for a few days. This will depend on what you feel will be easier or better for you to accomplish. If you're very sensitive to headaches, a gentle taper might reduce that pain. But be aware that many over-the-counter headache products like Excedrin contain caffeine. So be careful in your selection. Either way, commit to your plan. Third, swap in lower caffeine or caffeine-free alternatives. One thing that can help this process is to replace the habit with something else. If you're used to holding a warm mug every morning, keep that ritual. Try decaffeinated coffee or herbal tea. Decaf coffee actually still has a tiny bit of caffeine, usually about 5 milligrams or so compared to 100 than in a regular cup of coffee. But that's so little that it won't maintain your dependence. It can, however, make the transition feel more normal. You just get your morning coffee, just without the caffeine. There are also a lot of herbal teas that are caffeine-free, and if you typically drink soda, consider switching to a caffeine-free soda or seltzer water during this time. The idea is to maintain your routine while giving your body a break from the stimulant and the effects of caffeine. Fourthly, hydrate and take care of your body. This is always good advice, but it's especially relevant during caffeine reset. Drink plenty of water. Dehydration can make your headaches worse, and since caffeine does have a mild dehydrating effect, that diuretic that we talked about, your body might actually be craving water when you quit. Eating nourishing meals at regular intervals can also keep your energy and your blood sugar more stable. Include some protein and some healthy fats to keep your blood sugar nice and even. Low blood glucose, known as hypoglycemia, can cause increased tiredness, irritability, which is particularly counterproductive during caffeine withdrawal. To manage this, maintain good hydration and good nutrition. Fifthly, expect the dip. Track your progress. Go into the process knowing that you will likely have 1 to 3 days where you feel pretty low. This is normal. I can't emphasize that enough. Sometimes it's just knowing, all right, I'm on day 2 and this is the worst of it. I know it's going to get better by tomorrow. They'll help you push through to make that change. You might even just keep a journal, jot down your symptoms each day and rate them. Often you'll see that each day is a bit better than the day before. These little wins will motivate you to keep going. Remember, most of the undesirable withdrawal stuff is over within the first 3 days. Celebrate that. Plan a little reward for yourself after 1 week caffeine-free. Something to mark that accomplishment. Just not a double espresso. And if you're dragging in the afternoon, give yourself permission to take a power nap or go for a quick walk outside or natural sunlight and movement. They all help to refresh you a bit, which leads us to our next point. Number 6, prioritize sleep, especially during this reset. Since you won't have caffeine to prop you up, it's crucial to get restorative sleep. In fact, you might notice that you're sleepier early in the evening without caffeine in your system. Listen to your body and try to get to bed at a reasonable time, even earlier than usual if possible. This is a great opportunity to establish a healthy sleep routine and practice good sleep hygiene, which I talk about elsewhere. Many report that without caffeine, they experience deeper sleep and wake up feeling more refreshed. Good sleep will not only help you feel better during the withdrawal period, but it can also restore your natural energy levels. So you may not even feel like you need caffeine as much after your reset. It is helpful to remember that the goal of the caffeine reset, it's to resensitize your body so that in the future, you can enjoy caffeine's many benefits again and actually feel that boost that we talked about, and not to be chained to a habit. Your goal should be to break free from the chemical dependency so that you can function fine with or without caffeine. It can be helpful to remind yourself of spiritual motivations here as well. God designed our bodies with an amazing capacity to reset and to heal. By taking this break, you're honoring that design and regaining control over a habit. I encourage you to pray, Lord, give me strength and patience through this reset. Help me not to be mastered by anything, but to live in your strength and in freedom. Keeping a positive, grateful mindset will carry you through this challenge. So now what about after the reset? Some will decide that they feel so good that they want to continue without caffeine. And that's completely fine. You might discover that you prefer life caffeine-free. Others will add caffeine back in, but in a more mindful way, and we'll cover some tips for that in the next episode. There are also folks who choose a middle path, using caffeine only on certain days, for example, work days and none on weekends, or doing a caffeine reset every few months. The key is that now you are in control of your caffeine use instead of it controlling you. On an encouraging note, if you're worried that you'll lose all caffeine's benefits by becoming tolerant, it's worth knowing that even regular caffeine users still get some benefits from caffeine. For instance, studies on athletes show that habitual caffeine consumers still run faster or lift a bit more weight when they have caffeine before exercise. Your body will still respond, just not as dramatically. So don't feel like you absolutely must quit to zero or you'll get nothing from it. Caffeine can still provide some benefits even when used daily. The caffeine reset is primarily designed to enhance your subjective experience and to break any cycle where you feel dependent or to minimize the associated sleep issues with it. In our next episode, we're going to talk about how to renew your relationship with caffeine in a healthy and balanced way for the long term. After you've reset, or even if you just want to cut down without fully quitting, we'll review the best way to reintegrate caffeine into your life without letting it rule you. We'll cover strategies for timing, for dosing, and choosing your caffeine sources wisely. Remember, the scripture we mentioned earlier, everything is permissible for me, but not everything is beneficial. Everything is permissible for me, but I will not be mastered by anything. God desires us to live in freedom and in balance. If caffeine has been mastering you, I hope this episode gives you hope and practical tips that you can use to break free. And it might be easier than you imagined with just a bit of planning and effort. You got this. And as Philippians 4:13 reminds us, I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. Yes, that includes giving up or cutting back on that coffee if that's what you need to do for your health. Well, thanks for listening, and don't forget to subscribe, like, and follow the Aslan Health Podcast. A handout with additional caffeine-related content and literature review is available in the show notes for today. Please help yourself. I'm looking forward to episode 3, where we will renew a healthy long-term relationship with caffeine, one where you are in charge. May God bless you until next time, my friend.